Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Hello, you're welcome to today's edition of Money Radio on Leadership Podcast. Money Radio brings you the latest developments in Nigeria's business and economic cycles and issues of businesses around the world. My name is Innocent Odo, and today we're talking about the technology segment of the Money Radio. And it might interest you to know that we have a very important topic. The Minister of Digital Economy, Communication and Digital Economy, Isah Ali Pantami, set the ball rolling in the terms of the optimism in Nigeria that the country has the capacity to produce SIM cards. So what we call subscriber identification module is what you call SIM card in Nigeria. The minister has promised that Nigeria has the capacity to produce even over 200 million SIM cards in a year. Now, he said this while briefing newsmen last week at the House of Representatives when he presented a bill that seeks to provide enabling environment for Nigerian startups in order to develop that sector even more. So on this program today, we're going to look at that capacity that the minister had in optimism that Nigeria, which he thinks Nigeria has to develop a SIM card up to 200 million yearly. I'm not alone in the studio. I'm here with an ICT expert with whom I'm going to do justice to this very important topic. I have in the studio Haniel Jafar. Haniel, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Now, the minister is sounding optimistic that Nigeria can at least produce nearly 200 million SIM cards in a year. And that means we'll have a lot of work, to provide opportunities for Nigerian young people, also add value to the economy. But in the real sense of the word, do we really have that capacity to produce SIM cards in Nigeria?
Well, probably he has all the intelligence to have draw up that conclusion. I would not say, when you want to produce SIM card, you need plastics, you need chips and all that. Which I think maybe he has been able to get, we've been able to harness some of our resources to be able to come up with some of these things. But my concern is, why now?
Yes, why not? That's what a lot of people are asking. Even the members of the National Assembly that he presented the bill to started questioning that the possibility of that. Of course, that's their work because as people who do oversight function in those areas, they needed to get some things in detail. Then the minister, I don't know whether he has given them the details as they requested in this matter.
Yeah, why the National Assembly will be questioning the why now as regards to why is it coming late? I would be asking why now when SIM card is facing off. We are going to the stage where nobody will use SIM card again. There's a technology called eSIM, which means the chip will be embedded into our phone so that we don't need for SIM card. So what are we celebrating about? What exactly are we celebrating? That's why I asked why now. Because starting from last year, phones that have been manufactured now comes with embedded SIM chip, which means you can connect your phone. It's really your phone as it is can hold more than one phone line. So all you need to do is to have an eSIM profile with a registered company, and you can have all the numbers that you need in that profile, that eSIM profile. If you want a glow line, you link it to that eSIM profile. If you want an MTN line, you link it. If you want an Airtel line and the likes, you all link it to that eSIM profile, and you will receive your call from on the same phone that has that eSIM capability. So the challenge of you having multiple SIM is coming to an end. So why are we producing SIM card now? What's the other essence of producing SIM card? Is it that we want to now leverage on between now? Probably that technology would. I think one of these telecoms have started implementing it. I'm not so sure, but I know that some countries in Africa are already implementing it. Most telecoms in Europe, they're already implementing, in Europe and America, they're already implementing the eSIM functionality and capability. So probably before it becomes a thing or a norm, in Nigeria, we can start looking at 2024, 2025, but when you start the manufacturing now, when will people get to know that, okay, you now have this kind of product before you now start looking at changing? How many times do people change SIM in a year? Yet, how many times do people need to replace their SIM or do welcome back? Now, because these are the things you need to look out for. So, if you want to invest so much in that product, do you think you will have a return on investment before eSIMs becomes the norm of the day?
Well, that's a very, very critical question that we just have to direct to the to the minister and his all the people that are working with him, so that they'll be able to understand that yes, we need a transition and we need it fast. If there's any magic that they can do right now between now and when the eSIM becomes the norm, I think they should start setting modalities in place to be able to achieve that before the normal SIM becomes a thing of the past. Now, the minister also didn't he just reiterated what he had been saying uh, uh, from time now. Last year, I think around June last year, during the APC Professional Forum, the National Secretariat of the APC, the ruling party, he also mentioned this issue. That was the first time he said so. And he also added that the nation can also produce even smartphones, from the potentials that we have. But I don't think there's anything that has been done so far from that time till now, that he just repeated the same thing on the way forward, really. I mean, something structure or institution, or something like a structure or institution that will enable us drive that process even before the EC becomes the norm.
A major requirement for the production of iPhone and smartphone is are the chips, which I doubt if Nigeria has. If when he's talking of production, is he talking of, because they say now Nigeria produce cars?
Yes.
Yet the Dangote Peugeot project that started recently, is it that we are producing or we are assembling? Because that's the question we should ask.
Yes.
Are we, when he's talking about smartphone, is he talking about assembling smartphone? Because if it's assembly, every country in the world can assemble if they are able to put their personnel together. Yes. But if it's okay now, production in the area of we're importing some things and we are producing some of the materials that are used for the smartphone, yes, there is that possibility. But it's not as though we are 100% independent in the production of smartphones like China. China, they are 100% independent in production. They have all the resources to produce smartphones. I think the only thing they don't have is the chips. And they get most of the chips from Taiwan, if I'm not mistaken. So we need to know when we are talking about production, what's the level of Nigerian made resources? Yet, are we still going to be importing resources? Then at the end of the day, we'll now do the production here, or do the assembly here, or we have all the resources. If it's technicality and manpower to do it, we have it. But I'm not talking about the technicality and manpower. I'm talking about the resources it needs.
Yes.
The resources the product needs, or the raw materials that is needed to ensure that that product becomes available to the market. So the raw materials, where are we getting them from? Well, he may not need to tell us, but I'm just saying that maybe he has. That's why I started by telling us that probably he has all the intelligence that he needs to draw up to that conclusion. But if I'm to look at this from my own perspective or what I know, yes, what I know may be limited because I am not privy to some level of information. But if I'm to work with what I know and what's available, I know that we don't have that capability to produce chips. So that means we have to import chips. We have rubber, so that means we can in a way, if well refined, get the casings and all the necessary casings and components that has to do with the phone. But the chips that brings about integration and processing of information like the processor and all that, we don't have that, most of which would be imported.
But I'm thinking some time ago, I don't know how true this is. Someone told me that even the chips We can even do them here. It's just that the technology is lacking, but the products are still here. The raw materials are here. Mentioning a raw material like tantalite, for instance. We have a tantalite in abundance in somewhere, even Nasarawa State here. Many other minerals are, with which God blessed us. And so, what does it take to convert those kind of products into the needed materials, required materials, for us to produce this chip? Because that is the most important aspect.
That's where the technology comes to play. Yeah, you can do it. You can manually implement it, but it's when you want to implement some of these things manually, it takes time.
Yes.
So best bet is just like you want to sew one clothes, or you want to dye certain materials to certain colors. If you're doing it manually, the way they used to do it then in Kano State, it takes time. But when you're using a machine to do it, you find out that there's effectiveness and the productivity is high.
Yes.
So there will now be need for, if we have the raw materials, it now means that we have to import the technology that will now be able to help us process the raw material to make it a product. And if that's the case, why are we not exporting chips? Because chips is, if we have the raw materials, it invariably means that we are supposed to be exporters. Beyond just, we're not talking about just SIM card. We're also talking about ATM cards, because they use the same technology. Because the national ID card that we've registered since 2013 or 2012, that we are yet to get the card. They say the card supposed to have a chip. Yes, and the chip, the card is supposed to be linked to your BVN, which is linked to your account and all this process and all that. Then it means that the card also is supposed to be manufactured in Nigeria. If that's the case. So we should not even be talking about producing, but let's even leave the fact that the case of SIM card and look at the product itself that is exportable. That's a product that US and China are fighting over. In fact, that's what Chinese depend on US for. Chips. Yes. And US depend on China for manpower. Because why both of them, there's this technological or economic war between both of them, they still depend on each other. Yes. So if Nigeria is a country that knows how to harness its resources and make it viable and available to the world, it's something that they can become the go-to country for technologies like this or raw materials like this. And it becomes one of the products that is needed, because you use chips for almost everything in your television. All electronics needs chips. All electronics, all computers, be the olden days computers or the modern systems or the future systems, they all need chips. So if we can begin to harness those raw materials and make it available to the public and to the globe, then it means that there is a good potential in that product.
Okay, there's another thing that we're looking at in this direction, which is if the minister had expressed this optimism since 2021, this is about a full year, and there are no modalities yet on even the ambition to achieve the so-called, the ambition to achieve what the goal is. I don't understand why we are not being able to do that. Maybe because of lack of proficiency in producing the chips, just like you said. But I'm thinking that any government that is serious about something, 1 year might just be enough for the planning stage, and of course, even the execution stage, especially on issues that is as technical and as important as this one is to the national economy.
We are sadly Nigeria. We don't have documented process on certain things. You get, we can tell you, like in my hometown we have lime.
Yes.
Yet we have lime in my hometown. I think recently they said they just discovered some gold and all that. You get a portion of gold. Now, do we have a process at which these things moves from exploration to processing down to availability in the public space? Do we have plans and strategy at which we make these things available or achievable?
Okay, you just hold your thought on that. We'll be back after this short break.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're on to Money Radio on Leadership Podcast. And we've been talking about the possibility of Nigeria producing SIM cards and smartphones in the country. And I've been in the studio with Hania Jefaru, with whom I've been doing justice. It's a very important topic. Hania, before we went on that short break, you were talking about the strategy to achieve some of these aims.
Yes. Now, when we're talking about let's start with, if we want to produce something that is agricultural based,
Yes.
usually there is a strategy, there's a plan to achieve that. There's a roadmap. Exactly, that's the right word. There's a roadmap to achieve that. If you want to produce cassava, there's a roadmap to achieve it. If you want to increase the production of that same cassava, there is still a roadmap to achieve it. But when it has to do with technology, sadly, we don't have a roadmap on achieving this. So we just know that we have the raw material, and there is no model in place that can be implemented, or there is no strategic roadmap that anybody can just, okay, now this is the area I want to key into. When we're talking about oil, we know that there is the downstream, where there's the upstream, there is the midstream, because that is the roadmap to ensure that, okay, whatsoever angle you want to key into, this is the roadmap, and look for an angle or the stream that you want to key into. But for technology, sadly, that's not so. We don't have a design, we don't have a model, we don't have a roadmap that anybody can key into. If in the area of sourcing, exploring the raw material, then the area of processing it, let's have a roadmap. Because if we don't have a roadmap, we will just keep saying that we can produce. Being able to produce does not mean that you are producing.
Yes.
It means that you have all. It's all about potentials until it becomes a reality and it becomes a product. Because not until it becomes a product that me and you can see and use and test to know if it's a viable product, if it's a competitive product, a globally competitive product, it will just become, it will just remain a potential. And if it has to do with potentials, Nigeria has many potentials.
Yes, just like
so it's not just
always say potentials in everything. I've heard that to have the potentials to produce electricity, I will have the potential to produce even airplanes, to have the potential to produce everything. But then, in actual fact, those things are not being produced in Nigeria. So
to start with, we need a roadmap. If whatsoever you want to produce, let's have a roadmap. Let's have a model that will work with. I'm not a fan of. I don't like moving with the trend or replicating what somebody has done. I prefer designing personally my own unique
something original.
Yes. That's my person. Because if we want to replicate, that's fine. But if we want to develop, let's get something, a roadmap that's okay. Now the country is diversifying and want to diversify into technology. And I'm not talking about the software perspective. We're looking at the hardware perspective of technology. Now this is the roadmap. There will be companies that would line with extracting the product. There are companies that will line with assembling the product. There are companies that will be line with marketing the product. Let's have the roadmap so that every company that wants to key into that sector would know the area, because one company cannot extract and assemble. It's tedious. Not that it's not possible, but it's tedious. And it's better you have division of labor so that you get right products and there's competition. What's it called? Market competition, instead of having a monopolistic market. Having market competition so that people can compete and you can get the best value for the product. So let's have the roadmap. Without the roadmap, we have a roadmap for broadband. So most company knows where to key into. If it's in the area of survey, company knows that they will need to go do survey on how best to pack. If it's in the area of digging and laying of cables, company knows how to do it. We have a roadmap for cybersecurity strategy and policy that was released last year. If it's technological product we want to go into, let's have a roadmap for it. Maybe there is, and we don't know. But if there is and we don't know, it means that the awareness is not there.
Okay, the thing is, everything you talk about is planning, strategizing, and also, of course, synergy. Now, there are agencies and institutions of government that actually are charged with the responsibility of putting all these variables together. Now, we talk about the Raw Materials Research and Development Council. They are in charge of developing these raw materials and providing them to other sectors of the economy to use. I don't know how much of efforts that have been made in that regard, because it seems as if there might be little awareness. Maybe they are doing something that we are not so much aware of, but the public is supposed to be seeing some of these things so that to be able to judge them and how competitive they are. Because producing some of these things you mentioned here will give us the global competitive edge in the country. But right now, we are not getting something out of this potential. So, in fact, if you ask me, if you look at the record, it will run into billions that we're losing because we're not exploiting these opportunities. And when we lose billions like that, not just billions, the opportunities that job opportunities being created, we don't have them in that sector. That means we're not adding as much to the economy as would have been possible. So how then do we begin to harness this? By bringing the institutions together, probably giving them mandates. Do you believe that we should give these institutions mandates to be able to key into these projects?
Well, it's I always say that Nigerians we like something that we put in the money to, they want to see results tomorrow.
Yes.
Now that agency, Raw Material Research and Development Agency, is not that kind of agency. It's not the agency you put the money and you want to see the result or the value of that money almost immediately. Why is that so? Because it involves research, it involves development, and it takes time. Now let's look at how much was the allocation, what's it called, budget allocation for the year. If you look at agencies like that, agencies that try, they fight to ensure that they won't get something that would keep it running, not for the purpose of carrying out their own objective, but to keep the agency running. Because there are agencies that don't even have the funds that they need to run. Yes. So what level of funds have been allocated to this agency to ensure that we feel the effect of the agency? We're able to look at them and say, okay, these people, they are carrying out their objective optimally. But in case whereby they don't have the funds, what do you expect them to do?
Yeah, even that issue of funding was raised by the members of the National Assembly when the minister presented the bill to them. And his answer was that that sector is private sector driven, and that about 91% of the funding might come from the private sector. So the issue of funding might not necessarily be the problem. Do you share that kind of optimism?
Yes. ICT sector majorly, it's as long as the raw materials are available, it's private sector driven. But now, even though it is private sector driven, it needs regulation, and that's where the planning and the strategy and the model comes to play. Yes. So if it is driven by private sector, you can't just allow the private sector to begin to float, because there is a technology and there are raw materials that they can bring together to form a product. You have to also guide them to ensure that they align with the objective, the overall objective of the country, and how the value of that product, even as comparing it to the digital to the global space. So yes, it's private sector driven, but there is still a huge role that the government will need to play to ensure that the private sector will fall in place.
Now, that role, are we optimistic that they're going to play that role anytime
Well,
soon?
you mentioned it yourself that this was not the first time he is.
Yeah, this was not the first time.
And I can say that was not the 2021 announcement was not the first time either, because I've heard something related to it in 2020. So if by 2020 and they were in 2021 nothing has been done, that means we don't have what it takes, or we're not willing to do it.
Now, the issue is the startup in Nigeria. They are promising, but then they need some of these areas of government intervention to be able to unlock that potential that we need. Now, it's as if there's this disconnect. They require the energy to give them that oxygen they need. And there's there's not that enabling environment may have not been created, and that is why perhaps the minister has taken a bill seeking to create that enabling environment. But do we really need law like that for the business? The startup to thrive in the sector of producing something like
not necessarily something like this, the SIM card, but I would want, yes, we would need a bill. Sadly, yes, we need a bill. Even the US too, they had a bill that encourages small startup and all, and that's why if you look at 100 startups in the world, 70% of them are from the US. Now, this is the sad thing, that the startups are from the US does not mean that they are the founders are US based. They may not even be US based. They can just go to a country like Nigeria, go to a country like Ghana, pick up startups there, tell them that, hello, if you want us to fund you, come and register in the US. And the company will go register in the US, and they become a US startup, but owned or developed or designed by citizens of other countries. Yes. So it's just ensuring that we have the right guide. It still boils down to model, roadmap. How do we want to grow? How do we want to integrate startups hub, innovation hubs, innovation centers? These are things that we should begin to build into our system, because without all these things, your startup sector would not grow. You also need the funding. How do you get the funds?
Yes.
Is there going to be a dedicated amount for funding? How do you do E&M, evaluation and monitoring, on those startups? Because most of the things Nigerians we are good, we can implement something today, and you find out that that thing that you implement, or you build a road today, tomorrow the road that you built is now has gallop. What happened is because there's no evaluation and monitoring. If we have a strategy to curb the evaluation and monitoring, or strategy to curb inferior products and all that, it's going to be a long way in helping companies in delivery, so that they know what exactly they are doing, they know how they are doing it, and that's going to in a way help everybody.
Okay, there's another thing that was the minister suggested there, that the law will create an enabling council, and the president will be the chair of that council. And but then when issues like that happens, many people will begin to ask, why a council? Is it a form of another administrative outfit being created that will eat into the pulse of a government that is already shouting that it has no fund and has no money to run some programs, and then you're creating a council, maybe people by certain individuals and they different interests in running in different directions.
I've not seen the proposal, so I don't know the role and the function of the council. But if they are to function like the frequency management council, frequency management and allocation council, that's the council that allocates frequency to spectrum frequency to telecoms and satellite companies. Yeah, if that's the kind of role they want to do, that's fine. But I don't see startup needing a council, because we are not supposed to over-regulate it.
Okay.
When we're putting up a bill to encourage startup, it's not the aim is to put on a guide to ensure that while you are guiding them, you're also giving them freedom to grow, because the objective is not to be in Nigeria. The objective is to be in Nigeria and serve the world. Yes, not to be in Nigeria and serve Nigeria, but to be in Nigeria and serve the world. So we need to also, while regulating them, we need to ensure that there is they also have the free hand to operate and also grow without so much regulation. So we need to please not put so much regulation and put in things that would limit their growth.
Thank you so much. We have been talking about the potentials of Nigeria to produce a subscriber identification module, what is known as SIM card in Nigeria. The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Professor Isah Ali Pantami, expressed this optimism sometime last week when he visited the House of Representatives, where he presented a bill that seeks to create an enabling environment for startup businesses in Nigeria, which he said will also help the startups and add value to the economy. So we are talking about, we just talked about how this will enhance Nigeria, producing SIM card, how it will enhance Nigeria. But then, of course, there are new technology coming in, the eSIM, which may become the norm in a couple of years to come. So if Nigeria is preparing to produce a SIM card, the conventional SIM card, it had better still also put in place a mechanism to also be able to meet up with the challenges of the new technology that is coming. So it's a challenge to the authorities, and it's also a challenge for all of us to put hands together to ensure that whatever objectives that are set by this government in terms of the ICT sector, we're able to achieve them. It's on that note that we'll call it a day on this Bonnie Radio. I've been in the studio with Hani Jafar. Hani, it's always a pleasure being with you. Thank you so much for joining us once again. We promise to bring you a fresh edition of Bonnie Radio when next we come. Stay blessed and goodbye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.